Right, guys, like I mentioned earlier, we are at Allerthorpe Lakeland Park today with Matt, who is actually the course record holder. You've got a few different records on this course.
Yeah, I think I've got sprint and standard record over
Sprint
here.
and standard, so there's no better guy to speak to about course specifics. And we've actually moved over to where you enter the start of the race. So yeah, Matt, if you could just give us an insight into a few tips and tricks for getting around this course specifically.
Yeah, so the swim is quite flat here. I know that sounds a bit daft, but the swim is flat. It's not a sea swim, so it's not choppy, and that does make quite a big difference. So it's a non-salt water, very still, quite easy to navigate swim. Just follow the boys round. At the start, it's going to be quite shallow, so you'll probably able to put your feet down at the start, which makes it a little bit more comfortable because you're not sort of treading water for too long. Yeah, and just follow the boys around after that. So it's quite a straightforward swim. Then you'll come up out of the bank here, and then the field just over behind us is where you'll have transition. So that's quite straightforward. It's quite a long transition once you've picked up your bike though, so that's worth bearing in mind that you've got a couple of 100 metres to run maybe with your bike before you hit sort of the mountain line. So it's worth just bearing that in mind. If you've got bike shoes on, you've got a little bit of a way to go.
I can see, I'm assuming we come around this, I know you guys can't see it on the camera, but we'll come around the back and then through the sort of caravan site and then out of the exit.
You do, yeah, and then it's a little bit technical when you first get on your bike. It's kind of a little bit snaky before you get onto the road, so just bear that sort of stuff in mind. Don't start riding really hard to begin with, but yeah, then it's a sharp left turn onto the main road, and then off you go basically. And once you're there, it's quite flat all the way around.
Right, and then with actually, I have a few questions regarding the bike. So if it's alright, you don't mind skipping to the run.
Yeah,
and then we'll come back to the bike.
Absolutely, that's
specifically.
Fine, yeah.
So let's just say you've jumped on the bike, you've done the cycle section,
yeah,
and then you get to the run. Obviously, like you say, it's a flat course.
Yeah.
Is there any approach differently to doing it on a flat course, or?
And the other thing to bear in mind is, I mean, when it is a pancake flat course, you are working all the way around on your bike and run sections. So again, same with the bike. There's no kind of downhill, so there's no rest. And it's the same on the run. You've got to kind of just maintain a steady pace all the way through. There's a turnaround point halfway through this run, so you can sort of grab a drink and have a little bit of a rest there if you need to. But yeah, it's quite straightforward as a run. A couple of left turns on the way out. Yeah. But yeah, there's one little flyover bridge as well, which will sort of sting your legs a little bit by the time you get to that. But other than that, it's a very straightforward, quite flat and easy to navigate run. So you shouldn't have any problems there really.
Right. Okay. Well, that brings me nicely into the bike section. As you can see, we've got a bike here today. Like you say, it's a flat course. There's a slight. What did you call it? Like a back turn or on like a sharp left turn?
Yeah, there is a sharp left turn quite early on into the bike course, which you need to be aware of. So making sure your bike brakes actually work is quite important.
Right. Okay.
Because you're willing to slow down for the sort of sharp corner there. So make sure your brakes are working. But yeah, there is a couple of sharp left turns to be aware of on the course, but they're kind of the biggest technical element to be aware of. As you can see on the bike you've got next to you, it's equipped with disc brakes as opposed to rim brakes, which personally are something I'm quite fond of. I mean, road bikes have kind of developed disc brakes over the last couple of years. The stopping power is generally a bit better, especially if it's wet. So if it's raining on the day, those rim brakes on that Pro Carbon you've got there will stop much more effectively than rim brakes. So it's worth sort of bearing that thing in mind. So weather's not particularly great on the day.
Yeah.
And there's another couple of features on that bike which are quite beneficial to someone racing this course as well. So if you pull it forward a little bit, you can see the wheels are slightly deeper section than you would have typically on a normal bike. So this part here, it's a little bit deeper, and that just helps improve aerodynamics ever so slightly. So it means the bike will roll a little bit faster when it's up to speed. And it's got some clip-on aero bars at the top there, where you can rest your elbows on in sort of position here, and just makes you a little bit more aerodynamic as you're going around the course.
Just a quick one about the depth here.
Yeah.
What preferred depth do you have on your?
It honestly depends on the conditions. If it's very windy, you don't want to be going for deep sections at all. So if it's windy on the day, stay with shallow sections because the front wheel wobbles around. Yeah, it's a little bit like a sail on a ship.
I know you said this course can be quite windy as well.
It can be quite windy, yeah.
Right.
So the front section you need to stay shallow if it's windy. I mean, I'll typically ride 60mm on the front, but on the back that doesn't really matter. So because you're sat on top of it and it can't turn, no matter how deep your rear wheel is, it won't really have any effect on it. But yeah, slightly deeper wheels like we've got on this bike here help with aerodynamics. But if you can't control the front wheel because it's windy and the wheel's too deep, you want to stay away from that because you'll spend all your time worrying the bike's gonna knock you off basically. So
Right.
but yeah.
And like you say, with these bars here,
Yeah.
I know there are TT bikes that exist, and like we were saying earlier,
Yeah.
you don't necessarily need the biggest, newest bike.
You know,
So would a road bike be appropriate for a course like
it's
this?
absolutely sufficient. I mean, you can get yourself into an incredibly aerodynamic position on a road bike, to the point where there's probably not much difference between someone who's got a very good position on a road bike compared to someone who's got a poor one on a time trial bike. Those aero bars there allow you to sort of tuck your elbows in like this and pop your head down and stay nice and aerodynamic. But even without the aero bars, having a normal road bike like this, you can hold onto the brake hoods here, bend your arms to 90 degrees like this, and that makes you in a really good aerodynamic position as well. So it's not all about spending lots of money on a time trial bike. A road bike like this would be absolutely perfect for starting off on this course.
Right. Just a personal question actually, mate. On descents, is it preferred to hold on to the bars or onto the aero bars in terms of like control? Or
so in terms of descents, depending on how technical a descent you're talking, if it's a very straight, flat road, sort of it's going just down and you can see where it kind of bottoms out and comes up again, try and stay as aerodynamic as you can. You want to be going as fast as possible. If it's technical, you want as much control as possible, so you want to be holding onto the drops down here, so you've got as much control over the brake lever as you can.
Right.
That's where you want to be on a technical descent. But if it's a very straight, easy to sort of navigate descent, stay as aero as you can, because that's when you're going to get the most benefit from being aerodynamic. But if it's technical, you want access to the brakes, basically.
Right.
2 descending tips.
Awesome. So it's safe to say on this course, you can be sort of grinding down, head down.
You can, yeah.
Arms on these bars and just sort of chug away.
You can, yeah.
In a good rhythm, I assume.
Yeah, you can, yeah. It's very long straights on this course. To stay as aerodynamic as you can. You don't really need to think too much about anything really. It's nice straight flat roads, good surface for the most part with these kind of 90-degree turns. And that's the other thing you want to bear in mind is just make sure you brake and slow down for them so you don't swing out onto the wrong side of a road. But when you're not doing that, get your head down and sort of power away really.
Awesome. So just a little note on that, like you say, swerving out onto the side of the road, so just be careful for them few sharp turns you've got on the course.
Make sure you slow down appropriately. I mean, the roads around here are quite narrow in some places. It tends to be country lanes and country roads, so just be careful you've got no farm traffic coming the other way, and slow down so you're not on the wrong side of the road.
I guess the beauty of it being country lanes and stuff like that is we probably can hear as well as if we can't see, we can sort of tune our ears to see if we can hear anything around the corner. That's not to say depend on your ears alone, but
I mean, my local roads are a lot of these, and they're not busy roads, so there's generally not going to be a lot of traffic on there, so it should be quite uncongested roads. The only thing you'll probably see is other cyclists out for the most part. Yeah.
Right, incredible. Cheers for that.
Not a problem.